At the beginning of this project, I envisioned myself making a large stencil of Plato and Aristotle. Between the lines of the faces, I thought of including the conflicting views from each of the philosophers' own written work, such as Plato's Republic and Aristotle's Rhetoric. Originally, I envisioned this assignment to be much different than it had turned out. However, I still feel that I was successful with what I wanted to accomplish. I thought of using a transparent background such as glass or plexiglass. However, because time was somewhat constricted, I could not get any by the time I needed it, so I settled for canvas. In order to achieve what I wanted to do with this project, I created basic stencils using Photoshop, and then, using the smartboard, I traced each face onto my canvases. I used a bold black line for the stencil faces because I did not want the piece to be totally focused on them, but at the same time I didn't want them to seem unnoticeable. The use of hot glue and white paint on this piece allows certain elements to pop, which I feel makes the pieces successful. In the end, I was very pleased with the outcome of these pieces. However, I did not like how the way the Aristotle piece turned out. I think the way the face stands out is okay, but I think I was more successful with the overall outcome with the Plato piece. I don't know whether it is because the Plato piece looks like there was more planning and preparation to it, or just that the lines that make up the figure are skinnier, thus providing an easier way of showing detail. In the Aristotle piece, I used thick, bold lines. I think they may have been too thick. Also, I don't like the way I wrote the text and the whole background I used for the piece. If I could have redone this piece, I would have done it on a sturdier surface, maybe stuck with my original idea and used plexiglass. Though I don't like a lot of things about the Aristotle piece, I think that the Plato piece makes up for it. In the end, I do like where I went with this piece, but if I had more time and maybe some different materials, it could have been a lot better. For now, I am pleased with my work. Aristotle believed that we are delighted by a good imitation because we can learn from it and that it makes us delight in learning itself. Whereas for Plato, the original ideas and not the art contain the truth and beauty. For Aristotle, truth and beauty are contained in the forms and structures of art. I feel that this is a good description for my pieces because in the Aristotle one, it focuses more on his face and the words are more in the background. This relates to how he believes that truth and beauty are contained in art because they are not focused on in my Aristotle piece, but rather add to the overall appearance of the work. This excerpt also pertains well to the Plato piece because though I traced his face, which could be considered a form of art, on the top layer I used text. I thought by adding the second layer of text on the very top layer of the piece would allow me to express how Plato valued the ideas rather than the actual art piece. The text that I used on each of the pieces were, as I mentioned before, each of the philosopher's own thoughts.